Welcome to the Called to Love podcast, a show dedicated to exploring how human relationships and intimacy with God are connected. Join us as we discuss hard-hitting topics that inspire and motivate you to go deeper into the intricacies of building meaningful relationships. Here now are your hosts, James Levacy and Brian Canadle.
You know, one of the secrets about building relationships?
Tell me, James.
It was like this was the most significant one, I think, is the intentionality of it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, that was the first thing that you and I both were talking about, the desire not only to meet people, but the attitude that we had towards people. Our mindset changed. All we could think about was, I can't wait to meet with you. And they were so intrigued by our intentionality, they wanted to meet. Everybody wanted to get together.
Yeah, you know what made the difference is being on a mission. The intentionality actually put you on the mission. We're on a mission field here. Even though we're not traveling across country or anything like that, we've got all these people out here that are desperate to have genuine relationships, people to encourage them. I mean, who are you going to call? Who are you going to confess your sins to? Who are you going to talk to when something's really, really, going wrong in your life? And, we can easily get caught up in this deal to where everybody's just got their own problems. I've got my own problems. But are you looking for people out there that need a pick-me-up? Or are you looking to be the light to somebody?
Well, intentionality was a opening door, if you will. It was a gateway because people were like, you want to meet with me? You actually want to talk to me? And what happened is it opened the door for you and I to tell them about, man, we're on a journey. Let me tell you where we've been. Let me tell you what's changed about my mindset or my perception of what relationships look like. And so the first thing they noticed was our intentionality. The second thing they noticed is we began to take them on a journey. Nothing spectacular, just here's what's been going on with me. And then we said, tell me about your journey. And that is where we were learning to share. That's when they started to connect, is because they wanted to talk. They wanted someone to listen.
Yeah, they really do. The shift happened. I can remember, like I would go someplace and I would just kind of be by myself or just kind of being, if I saw someone I knew, I'd try to, get with them. Where this thing started to change is I'd start going places looking for people I didn't know. I can remember meeting one of my best, closest friends to this day at church, and I can remember just seeing him from a distance, and he was just sitting. He had his wife and a child there, but he just looked down. I just can remember seeing just how lowly he kind of looked there, and it looked like, man, nobody's talking to them. They're just sitting there by themselves. They need somebody to befriend them, to come over and talk to them somehow, some way. And I just saw it as an opportunity. I had no idea how that relationship would blossom.
And what was interesting when we started that process, when we started to meet with people, it affected their family. They started talking to their spouse. They started talking to other people that they knew. Hey, I'm meeting with this guy. He reached out to me. He was intentional about talking to me. And then we found out that even though we've known each other for years, how much we actually didn't know about each other and our journey and how desperately we needed to be in a relationship, a friendship.
Well, I remember what it was like to be on the other side of that. I mean, I would come into church. I'd get there late, about when they were already a song or two in, because no one would see me. And then I'd want to sit on the back of the row so I could get out early. And, the truth of the matter is I was kind of in a bad place, but I kind of liked it too, because it gave me an excuse to be depressed. It kind of gave me an excuse not to be in a relationship with anyone. But desperately, I would have liked someone taking an interest in me or talking to me, at least noticing me. But week after week, the more people would notice me, it fueled the fire of me wanting to reject, just kind of feeding that rejection monster.
Right. And what was really great about starting that process is that's where most of them were. They thought, well, you have an agenda. You're wanting to find out something about me. You're not really interested in me. So it took a few visits before they started to feel really comfortable and say, hey, man, and especially when I said, is there, listen, it's been a journey for me, and but I'm here for you. At any time you want to talk, I just want to go on a journey with. And they found out that I didn't have a timetable or I wasn't rushing and I didn't have an agenda. That's when they start saying, I've been struggling. I've really been struggling. And so I know without a doubt, that's where you start to find out where people are and what they're struggling with. We got a clip coming up, and this is a great clip about what happens when you connect and open up to someone.
Yeah, I really think this is going to put some skin on it for a lot of, you watching out there because, we know this guy. He's a really close friend. We know the journey that he's been going through. It makes you cry to see where we started and where we are today. So I hope you enjoy it.
Some people may know that I've been delivered from alcohol. Well, during my alcoholism, I was always alone. I always got alone so I could drink. And the Lord delivered me from alcohol, and now then I'm able to build the relationships and use them to help build my character, plus learn about others and just, have friendship. Before I was isolated, and now then with the relationships, I'm no longer isolated. I have a community that helps support me. God delivered me from it, but when I was tempted, I always had somebody in my back pocket, could always call, talk to, let them know what I was going through, how I was feeling, and I had the relationships there to help support me. I see the value of people, but I also now see the value of drawing closer to the Lord, learning how to praise Him, worship Him, and then I've also learned how to embrace people.
When you first start meeting with somebody, one of the hardest things for them to do, and maybe on both sides of it, is to be transparent. And we get this question all the time. I know you've been asked this 1,000 times. Well, what should we share? Like, shouldn't we keep some things to ourselves? Because I've shared things with people before, and they went and stabbed me in the back with it. So there's all these questions and what if this and what if that. And it comes very apparent that people just have a hard time being transparent because they're afraid of what you're going to do with the information.
They are. And one of the things that you'll find is words, when you start to communicate, usually you're going to be surface because you're wondering if you can trust that person. But the way someone listens and the way they listen, not to respond or tell you something spiritual, but the way they actually listen to understand, and then that really opens the door for them to go more and more and become more transparent. And once you start doing that, then people are going to really start to open up to you.
That's right. So I guess one of the keys to being a pursuer of relationships, a pursuer of people, to go out and build the kingdom, which is made up of people, is you've got to learn to be transparent. And that's tough. We've had people tell us that they would not be transparent, period. You remember who I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do. And one of the things we've seen is consistency. So when you start to meet with people and they know inevitably that this relationship's going to probably is on track to go deeper, closer, more transparent, more vulnerable than they've ever been with anybody else before, they'll sabotage it. They'll stand you up. They don't want to meet. They'll go 2 weeks, and they're looking to see your response. Are you really going to pursue me? Am I going to make you mad? Are you going to be offended? Yeah. I'm really wanting to see what your intentions were.
And you bring up a great point, because that's one of the big struggles. When you get in your heart that, okay, I've bought into the idea that I need to build relationships. I need to be in relationships with other people. Now there's this whole balancing act about, well, I tried. It didn't work out. So how do you find people? That becomes the next question.
Well, every relationship is different. So some people want to move quickly. They can't wait. I mean, if you'll spend every day with them, they would love that. But the biggest thing is letting them know you have no expectations, that you're there for them. Whether you meet every week or every other week, I'm going to be here for you. And what they're going to do for a while is they're going to compare you with every other relationship that blew up, that did not work out. And so it just takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's the consistency that sells.
Yes.
You can do anything for a short period of time, but can you sustain it?
Yes, when they call you up and say, "Hey, I know we haven't talked in a month, man, I know," and I just stop them. I say, "It doesn't matter if we haven't talked in 2 months or a year. I have not changed my mind about you. I'm right where we left off."
Yeah, it's that grace you got to have. I can remember one time there was this guy. He kept saying, "Hey, we need to hook up. We need to talk," and he was real adamant about it. Right? I mean, he was kind of pursuing that and making sure. So I took it upon myself to really make sure I was going to return the phone call, make sure that we set up a time to meet. And just for one reason or the other, he just couldn't return my calls. He couldn't return the messages. And one thing led to the other. I saw him like, I don't know, 5-6 months later. And the first thing he did was he just kind of dropped his head when he saw me. And that is the problem, because people will think they let you down. And we've got to be the type of people that are, full of grace.
When you've been forgiven much, you love much. And one of the things that you want to model more than anything is the heart of the Father. And a heart of a father is he's merciful, he's gracious, he's long-suffering, he's patient.
Yeah.
And so just when you want to go, well, I can't believe they did that to me. I can't believe they did not return my call. I can't believe I showed up, drove 20 minutes to meet for coffee, and they were a no-show. And now they're not answering their phone. It's a reminder. The Lord always reminds you, hey, you know what? I was there for you when you did the same thing for me. So,
That's right.
But anyway, yeah, it's worth it, James.
Yeah.
You got to be committed, and intentionality is the gateway, is a door opening for people to see. So you're modeling not only with words, but you're modeling long after the visit, long after the coffee.
Well, what's funny is there's never a greater time to build trust. When I walked up to that guy after he dropped his head, and I said, "Dude, I love you. What are you talking about? Dude, it's okay. Hey, I already know there's stuff going on. Hey, we're here now." And I hugged it out with him. There's such a relief. We ended up having this great conversation and talking and everything like that. You just can't sweat the small stuff.
You can't. And once you start seeing fruit, once you start seeing how it impacts people, it continues to drive you. Let's watch this clip. We'll learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
Before, when I was in church, I seen how you went to church. I could play church all day long. I knew how to do that. But when I finally found some people that knew how to model relationships and how to love God, then I was able to see it with my own eyes and follow it and embrace it to where I could just worship the Lord and just follow God. I try to show mercy to people because God has forgiven me of many, many sins, and He's shown me a lot of mercy. And sometimes people are people, and you love them where they're at, how they are, where they are at that point in their life, regardless. Have no expectations with them. I just love them. God's the same way with me. He loves me. He forgives me. He has no expectations other than just to praise Him. And that's what I try to do.
What a great clip.
Yes.
Love that, dude. You can't have a relationship with people without this number one relationship with the Father.
Yes, it's one thing to be intentional with people, but the one that rescued and redeemed you, that saved you, that's transforming you, the one that's given you the heart to see people the way He does, we've got to be intentional with the Lord, James.
He's a sweetheart. If you don't think of Him as someone who's all for you, who's the most merciful, the most graceful. I mean, what do you have to do to prove that he wants everything good in your life? He wants to live through you abundantly. What does he have to prove? Does he have to die on the cross? Does he have to get beaten? Does he have to say, man, I still forgive you. I still love you. I still love you, you know? And, you know, I even kind of being raised up in church and kind of having a background, there was never a time that I can really remember personally not knowing that God was real. Like, for some reason, I just always knew it, but didn't have a relationship with him. But I remember the difference between having a regimented study time, worship time, prayer time, all that, and having an intimate time. That changed my life.
Well, we learned what to do, the disciplines. We learned how important it was to pray, to read the Bible, church attendance, really plugging into a small group. But ultimately, the greatest thing we could do was something personal and intimate and relational, and that was what Jesus did. He didn't come just to redeem us and save us from sin. He got us to a place where we could be back in relationship with the Father again, and that's where it starts.
Yeah, he realigned us. You know, the idea that you can do things through a Christian perspective without really knowing the Father. I mean, how would you if you didn't know his plans? I mean, the difference really, if you get right down to it, it's this word self. Because before, when I would pray, I really needed my stuff to work out. I needed my wife to work out. I needed my job to work out. If this other person over here would just work out, it wouldn't be so stressful on me. Man, I'm just praying for other people now. So self just kind of gets out of the way. I mean, we're not thinking and praying about self so much anymore. We're strategizing on how we can build the kingdom for the Father.
Well, we go from being self-centered and self-focused. As we grow and mature, we start to be others-focused, and we care about others. And it's not all about us. We're really focused more and more, and that's part of the growth, is moving beyond ourselves, dying to ourselves, and starting to see the bigger picture, what my real purpose is.
That's right. So what we're talking about is really not that easy. I mean, in concept, it's easy. I mean, go out, let's build relationships, let's connect. There's people that's going to watch this and say, I ain't got time for that. I don't really have to do that. I'm not called to that. That's okay. You can think like that.
But the good news is that's where you're going to start anyway. But the longer you begin to be intentional in your time, personal, relational time with the Lord, the easier you will understand and have a perspective of what it looks like moving forward, meeting with people.
And that's where the maturity comes in.
Absolutely.
I've enjoyed this.
I have too,
So
James.
until next time, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk more about this later.
We hope this episode of the Called to Love podcast has enriched your life and offered valuable principles to apply on your personal journey. Please explore our website at www.calledto.love for more information and to share your feedback with us. Until our next episode, may you find peace and love. And always remember, you are called to love.